This story is titled, My Ex-Wife Cheated, My Parents Sided with Her, and even attended her wedding to the guy she cheated with. Now that she scammed them too, they're begging me to forgive them. But I'm done. Hey everyone, before we jump into today's video, I need your help. We've noticed the channel is losing some traction, and subscribing is one of the best ways you can support us. It's quick, free, and it helps us keep bringing you awesome content. Your support means the world. Let's keep this channel growing together. Thanks so much. Now let's start the video. So, my ex-wife cheated on me, my parents took her side, and now they want my help after she screwed them over too. Nope, not happening. Let me give you the backstory first. When I, 29 male, met Amanda, ex-wife, 27 female, I thought she was a dream come true. She had that perfect blend of confidence and charm that could make anyone feel like the most important person in the room. She was ambitious, talked about big goals for her career, and had this infectious energy that made me want to be better for her. Naturally, my parents loved her. I mean, why wouldn't they? Amanda had this uncanny ability to make people adore her, even if it was all just an act. From the moment I introduced Amanda to my parents, Linda and Ron, it was like they adopted her as their own daughter. My mom would gush about how lucky I was to find someone like her, and my dad, he acted like Amanda could walk on water. They'd never been this enthusiastic about any of my past relationships. Looking back, I should have seen it as a warning sign, but at the time, I thought it was great that everyone got along so well. Amanda was manipulative. She didn't just win my parents over with her charm, she strategically made herself indispensable to them. She'd remember their birthdays, bring them little gifts, and spend hours chatting with my mom about her dreams of building a family. Meanwhile, she'd flatter my dad by asking for advice about investments, or her non-existent 401k. By the time we got engaged, they were practically begging me to lock it down with her. I didn't mind the attention Amanda got from my parents at first. It felt good knowing they approved. But over time, I noticed something unsettling. My parents started siding with Amanda on everything. If we disagreed about where to live, how to decorate, or even what to have for dinner, my mom and dad would take Amanda's side without fail. It's just because they like you, I told Amanda one night, when she jokingly pointed out how much my mom fussed over her. She smirked and said, "Well, maybe you should listen to them more." I laughed it off, but that comment stuck with me. The real trouble started after we got married. Amanda began dropping subtle hints about how much she hated her job. At first, it was just complaints about her boss or her long hours. Then, it escalated to, "I wish I could just focus on being a wife and building a home for us." She made it sound noble, like quitting her job was somehow a sacrifice for the greater good of our marriage. I wasn't sold on the idea. I'd grown up believing that marriage was a partnership. My parents had both worked to support our family, and I assumed Amanda and I would do the same. But every time I hesitated, Amanda would pull out the big guns, my parents. "I was talking to your mom today," she'd say casually, "and she mentioned how lucky I am to have a husband who can provide so well. She said if I wanted to take a break from work, I should." Sure enough, when I brought it up with my mom, she was all for it. "Amanda has a point," my mom said during dinner one night. "Why should she stress herself out if you're capable of providing for both of you?" My dad chimed in too. "Happy wife, happy life, son. If Amanda's happy, you'll be happy." I tried to explain that I wasn't comfortable being the sole breadwinner, but they brushed me off like I was being unreasonable. "She just wants to take care of you," my mom said, completely ignoring the fact that Amanda had never cooked a meal or cleaned a bathroom in her life. After months of pressure from Amanda and my parents, I finally gave in. I told myself it was temporary, that Amanda would get bored and go back to work eventually. But deep down, I knew I was being played. Amanda quit her job the very next day. She didn't even give notice. I came home to find her lounging on the couch, scrolling through her phone like she'd been doing it her whole life. When I asked what she'd done all day, she shrugged and said, "Relaxing. I needed this." That was the beginning of the end. My parents, meanwhile, acted like Amanda had made the ultimate sacrifice by quitting her job. They praised her for putting our marriage first, and constantly reminded me how lucky I was to have a wife like her. What I didn't realize at the time was that Amanda wasn't just manipulating me, she was manipulating my parents too. She had them wrapped around her finger, and they were more than happy to back her up, even when it came at my expense. Looking back, I can see how Amanda set the stage for what would come later. She knew exactly how to pit me against my parents, making me look like the bad guy while she played the innocent, supportive wife. And my parents? They fell for it every time. I was too blind, or maybe too naive, to see the trap I was walking into, but I've always had that feeling that something's off. Once Amanda quit her job, I hoped things would even out. I figured, okay, she's taking some time to settle into this homemaker role she talked about. I assumed she'd use the time to manage the house, cook some meals, maybe take up hobbies that didn't involve scrolling through Instagram for hours. Boy, was I wrong. It didn't take long for reality to hit me like a freight train. Amanda wasn't interested in being a homemaker. She wanted to be royalty. Chores? Not her thing. Cooking? She once made spaghetti with jarred sauce, called it a gourmet effort, and expected me to rave about it. Cleaning? That's why we have a vacuum, she'd say, conveniently forgetting that someone had to push the thing around. Instead, Amanda treated her days like an extended vacation. She spent her mornings sipping overpriced coffee that she insisted I buy before leaving for work. By afternoon, she was on the couch, binge-watching reality TV, or scrolling through her phone like it was her full-time job. The woman could spend hours perfecting a selfie, editing it with filters, and posting it with captions like, "Life is beautiful when you're loved and supported." Supported, more like sponsored. And let's not forget about the spending. Without her income, every dollar was coming out of my pocket, and Amanda had no concept of budgeting. She had a knack for convincing me we needed things. "This new throw blanket is essential for the living room vibe," she'd say, waving a $200 price tag in my face. Or, "I saw this drink subscription that's totally worth it. We deserve to treat ourselves." I started bringing up the fact that maybe she could pitch in more. I wasn't asking for a full Martha Stewart transformation, just a little effort. But every time I brought it up, Amanda flipped the script. "Oh, so now you're regretting letting me quit my job? You said you'd support me. If I'd known you'd hold it over my head, I wouldn't have done it." I was stuck. If I pushed back, I was unsupportive. If I stayed quiet, I'd resent her more every day. But the worst part wasn't even Amanda's behavior. It was my parents. Anytime I brought up my frustrations to them, they acted like Amanda had done nothing wrong. "She's just adjusting," my mom would say. "Give her some time. Being a homemaker is harder than it looks." Harder than it looks? Amanda hadn't vacuumed the house since she quit her job. Meanwhile, I was working extra hours just to keep up with the growing credit card debt from her shopping sprees. My dad wasn't any better. "You're overreacting," he said when I vented to him one night. "Amanda's a good woman. She just needs your support. Stop nagging her." It was infuriating. My parents weren't just dismissing my concerns. They were actively encouraging Amanda's behavior. Every time I tried to set boundaries or address the imbalance in our marriage, Amanda would run to my mom, and my mom would turn it into a lecture about how I needed to be more understanding. One night, after a particularly rough day at work, I came home to find the house in complete chaos. Dirty dishes piled in the sink, laundry strewn across the living room, and Amanda sprawled out on the couch with her phone. She didn't even look up when I walked in. "Rough day?" I asked, trying to keep the frustration out of my voice. "Yeah," she said, sighing dramatically. "I've been trying to figure out which filter looks best for this post. It's exhausting." I stared at her, waiting for her to laugh or admit she was joking. She didn't. "Seriously, Amanda," I snapped. "The house is a mess, and you're worried about Instagram filters?" She rolled her eyes. "I'll clean tomorrow. Don't start with me. I've had a long day." That was Amanda's favorite excuse. I've had a long day. Long day doing what exactly? I was grinding at work, busting my ass to provide for us, and she was too exhausted to load a dishwasher? I told myself I'd talk to her about it later, when we were both calmer. But the next day, before I even got a chance, Amanda pulled the ultimate power move. She got my parents involved. Apparently, she'd called my mom that morning, crying about how I didn't appreciate her, and how I was always criticizing her efforts. By the time I walked into work, I had a voicemail from my mom, giving me a lecture about how I needed to be a better husband. "You need to stop being so hard on Amanda," she said. "She's trying her best. You're just making her feel unappreciated." Unappreciated? What exactly was I supposed to appreciate? The mess she left everywhere? The fact that I was funding her lazy lifestyle while working myself into the ground? The worst part was that Amanda and my parents had formed this unholy alliance against me. Anytime we argued, she'd call them for backup, and they'd swoop in to defend her, like she was some delicate flower who needed protection from her big, bad husband. "Marriage is about compromise," my dad said one evening after Amanda had complained to him about me. "If Amanda needs time to figure things out, give it to her." Figure things out? We were supposed to be building a life together, not playing this one-sided game where I worked and Amanda pretended to be busy. The turning point came a few weeks later, when Amanda demanded we hire a house cleaner. "You're obviously too busy to clean," she said, "and I'm overwhelmed. It'll help us both." I laughed, thinking she was joking. "Overwhelmed with what? Instagram captions?" Her face turned serious. "Wow, so now you're just being mean. You know what? Maybe I'll go stay with your mom for a few days. At least she appreciates me. And she did. Amanda packed her bags and spent the weekend at my parents' house, where she was treated like a queen. My mom called me that Saturday to scold me, again, about how lucky I was to have Amanda, and how I needed to step up as a husband. She's an amazing woman, my mom said. You should be grateful she's willing to put up with you. That line stayed with me for days. Grateful? For what? Amanda had managed to turn my parents into her personal cheerleaders, and I was the bad guy no matter what I did. It didn't matter how much I worked or how much I provided. As far as Amanda and my parents were concerned, I was failing as a husband, because I dared to expect anything in return. At that point, I started realizing just how deep Amanda's manipulation went. She didn't just want to coast on my hard work, she wanted me to feel guilty for not letting her get away with it. And my parents? They were more than happy to help her keep me in line. I didn't know it at the time, but this was only the beginning. Things were about to get much, much worse. Things had already hit a boiling point between Amanda and me, but I kept trying to convince myself it was just a rough patch. Every marriage has its ups and downs, right? I thought maybe if I worked harder, communicated better, or just gave her more time, things would improve. But Amanda wasn't interested in improving anything. She was too busy perfecting her act. I started noticing her strange behavior a few months after she quit her job. She was always glued to her phone. At first, I didn't think much of it because, let's be real, everyone spends too much time on their devices these days. But Amanda wasn't just scrolling aimlessly. She'd laugh at messages, quickly lock her screen when I walked by, and sometimes even leave the room to take calls. One night, I got home late from work. The house was its usual disaster zone. Empty takeout containers on the coffee table, laundry piled up, and Amanda sitting on the couch with her phone glued to her hand. When I walked in, she barely acknowledged me, just muttered a half-hearted, "Hey." I dropped my bag and asked, "What's for dinner?" She didn't even look up. "I wasn't sure when you'd be home, so I didn't cook anything." "Didn't cook anything?" I snapped. "Amanda, I've been working all day. The least you could do is make dinner." She finally looked up, rolling her eyes. "I'm not your maid, Ethan. If you want dinner, there's a frozen pizza in the freezer." I was exhausted, frustrated, and ready to explode, but I held it in. Instead, I heated up the damn pizza and ate it alone, while Amanda sat on the couch, giggling at her phone. That night, something in me snapped. I started paying closer attention to her behavior. It wasn't just the laziness or the entitlement, it was how secretive she'd become. Her phone was always on silent, and she'd never leave it unattended. If I asked her what she was doing, she'd say something vague like, "Just chatting with friends," or "looking at funny memes." One Saturday morning, she left the house to meet a friend for coffee. This wasn't unusual. Amanda loved her girls' time, and I was happy to have a few hours of peace and quiet. But when she came back, she was unusually cheerful. She walked in humming a song, her phone in hand, and a big grin on her face. "Good coffee?" I asked. "The best," she said, flashing a smile that felt fake. That's when I started digging. A few days later, Amanda left her phone on the kitchen counter while she took a shower. Normally, she'd never leave it out of sight, so this was my chance. I hesitated for a moment, telling myself I shouldn't invade her privacy, but then I thought about all the red flags I'd been ignoring. I needed answers. I picked up her phone and unlocked it. Yes, I knew her passcode. I went straight to her messages, and that's when I saw it. A string of texts from someone named Jake. "Jake, can't stop thinking about last night." "Amanda, same here. You make me feel so alive." "Jake, when can I see you again?" "Amanda, soon, I promise. Just gotta keep Ethan off my back." I felt like the ground had been ripped out from under me. My heart was pounding, my hands were shaking, and I could barely process what I was reading. She'd been cheating on me, probably for months. And not just emotionally. Based on the messages, it was obvious they'd been meeting in person. I scrolled through their chat, reading more of their sickening exchanges. Amanda had told Jake that I was boring, too focused on work, and always nagging her. She painted herself as the victim, like I was some tyrant who didn't appreciate her. Meanwhile, she was living off my hard work, trashing me behind my back, and sneaking around with another man. When Amanda came out of the shower, I was waiting for her in the living room, her phone in my hand. "What's this?" I asked, holding up the screen with Jake's messages. Her face went pale, but only for a second. Then she smirked, like she thought she could talk her way out of it. "Ethan, it's not what you think." "Don't," I snapped. "Don't insult my intelligence. I read everything, Amanda. I know you've been cheating." She crossed her arms, her smirk turning into a glare. "Well, maybe if you paid more attention to me, I wouldn't have needed to look elsewhere." I couldn't believe her audacity. She wasn't even trying to deny it. She was blaming me. "That's your excuse?" I shot back. I work my ass off to support you, and you repay me by screwing around with some random guy? Amanda shrugged. Jake makes me feel special. Something you haven't done in a long time. That was it. I was done. I told her to pack her things and get out of my house. She tried to argue, saying she had nowhere to go, but I didn't care. She could stay with Jake for all I cared. You can't kick me out, she screamed. Your parents will never forgive you. I laughed bitterly. Good luck with that. Tell them the truth, Amanda. Let's see how they feel about you now. What I didn't realize was that Amanda had no intention of telling my parents the truth. Instead, she flipped the story entirely. By the time she left, I thought I'd finally be able to move on. But Amanda wasn't done ruining my life. Not by a long shot. She wasn't content with just wrecking our marriage. She had to take my family down with her too. And the worst part? They let her. A couple of days after Amanda moved out, I got a call from my mom. The second I answered, she was already going off. How could you do this to Amanda? She snapped. Do what? I asked, genuinely confused. Kick her out. She's heartbroken, Ethan. She told us everything. Now, when my mom said everything, I assumed she meant the actual truth. I thought maybe Amanda had confessed about Jake and was trying to manipulate my parents into pitying her. But no. Amanda had spun an entirely different story, one where I was the villain. She told us about your cheating, my mom continued, her voice dripping with disgust. How you've been emotionally neglecting her for months. How you've been out late, probably with another woman. How could you betray her like that? It took me a moment to even process what she was saying. Amanda accused me of cheating? The sheer audacity of it was almost impressive. That's not what happened, I said, trying to keep my cool. Amanda's the one who cheated. She's been seeing some guy named Jake for months. I have the proof. Oh, so now you're making excuses, my mom shot back. That poor girl has been trying her best to make your marriage work, and you just threw her out like she's garbage? We raised you better than this, Ethan. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Amanda had completely flipped the script, and my parents had swallowed her lies without even asking for my side. She's staying with us now, my mom added. And frankly, I think you owe her an apology. An apology? For what? For being the one person in this mess who wasn't lying or cheating? For working overtime to support a wife who spent her days on the couch texting another man? I was furious, but I knew arguing with my mom was pointless. She was completely under Amanda's spell. Over the next few weeks, things went from bad to worse. Amanda had turned my parents into her personal army, and they were more than happy to march to her beat. They called me constantly, berating me for ruining the marriage. My mom even suggested I go to therapy to work through my issues so Amanda and I could reconcile. She still loves you, my mom insisted one evening. She's just hurt. If you show her you're willing to change, maybe you can fix things. Fix things? Amanda was living in their house, sleeping in the guest room that I had once helped renovate, and laughing at how easily she duped them. The idea of fixing anything with her made my stomach turn. But my parents didn't stop there. They started dragging other family members into the drama. I got texts and calls from cousins, aunts, even my grandmother, all parroting the same nonsense about how I'd betrayed Amanda and how disappointed they were in me. She's been through so much, one of my cousins said. Your mom said she's crying herself to sleep every night. Yeah, I bet she's crying herself to sleep, I replied, right into Jake's arms. But no one believed me. Amanda had painted herself as the perfect victim, and I was the heartless, cheating husband who'd thrown her out for no reason. It didn't matter how much evidence I had, or how many times I tried to tell the truth. Amanda was better at playing the part, and my family ate it up. The divorce process, thankfully, was the one thing that didn't drag out like the rest of this nightmare. Amanda and I had signed a prenup before getting married. Because of that, Amanda couldn't come after my assets or demand alimony. The split was clean and quick. She tried to fight it at first, claiming she was entitled to more after everything I'd put her through. But her lawyer shut it down. Knowing the prenup was airtight, within less than a month, we were officially done. No more marriage, no more Amanda. At least legally, I was free of her. The final straw came a month later when I found out Amanda had married Jake. Yep, the same guy she'd been sneaking around with while I was working overtime to fund her lifestyle. They had a small courthouse wedding, nothing fancy, but the real shock? My parents were there. I found out through Facebook, of all places. My mom had posted a picture of Amanda and Jake, all smiles, with a caption that read, "Wishing Amanda all the happiness she deserves. She's like a daughter to us, and we'll always support her no matter what." I stared at the screen, my blood boiling. They were supporting her? After everything she'd done? After she'd lied, cheated, and dragged my name through the mud? I called my mom immediately. "You went to Amanda's wedding?" I asked, my voice shaking with anger. "Of course we did," she replied, as if it were the most obvious thing in the world. "Amanda's still family to us, Ethan. Just because you couldn't make your marriage work doesn't mean we have to cut her out of our lives. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. You're seriously choosing her over your own son? We're not choosing anyone, she said, her tone annoyingly calm. We just think Amanda deserves to be happy, and we won't let your bitterness ruin that for her. Bitterness. That was rich coming from the woman who had taken in my cheating ex-wife and treated her like a saint. That was the moment I decided I was done. Done trying to explain myself. Done trying to win back the family that had so easily turned their backs on me. Done being the scapegoat for Amanda's lies. Cutting ties wasn't easy, but it was necessary. I blocked my parents' numbers, unfollowed them on social media, and stopped showing up to family events. I knew they'd never admit they were wrong. And honestly, I didn't need their approval anymore. Amanda had won them over, but she wasn't my problem anymore. Let them deal with her tantrums and her lies. Let them see the truth for themselves, because sooner or later, they would. People like Amanda can only keep up the act for so long. As for me, I started focusing on rebuilding my life. Therapy helped me process the betrayal, and I poured myself into my work and hobbies. Over time, the anger and resentment faded, replaced by a sense of relief. I was free. Free from Amanda, free from my parents, free from the toxic cycle I'd been stuck in for years. Eventually, I started to move on, and that's when I met Sophia. We met through mutual friends at a small dinner party. I wasn't looking for a relationship at the time. I still had plenty of emotional baggage, but Sophia was impossible to ignore. She was smart, funny, and had this genuine warmth about her that I hadn't experienced in years. Our first date was simple, coffee and a walk through the park, but it was the first time in a long time that I felt like I could let my guard down. Sophia wasn't interested in games or manipulation. She was just real. As our relationship grew, so did my confidence. For the first time, I felt like I was in a partnership, not a performance. Sophia encouraged me to be myself, flaws and all, and didn't hesitate to call me out when I fell into old patterns of trying to please everyone but myself. When Sophia and I got engaged, I knew the wedding planning would be tricky. Not because of her, she was as easygoing as they come, but because of the inevitable drama my parents would stir up. At first, I debated whether or not to invite them. Part of me thought maybe this was the olive branch we needed to repair things. But the more I thought about it, the clearer it became. They didn't deserve to be part of this new chapter of my life. They made their choice, I told Sophia one night as we sat together on the couch. They chose Amanda over me, over the truth, over our family. I'm not giving them the chance to ruin this. Sophia nodded. I just want you to be happy, Ethan. This day is about us, not them. Of course, word about the wedding got out, because nothing stays quiet in families like mine. My mom started calling again, leaving voicemails filled with guilt trips and crocodile tears. Ethan, we're your parents. How could you not invite us to your wedding? Family is family. I didn't respond. Next came my dad, who tried the old tough love approach. You're being ridiculous, he said in one voicemail. Sophia deserves to know the importance of family, and you're depriving her of that by shutting us out. Nice try, Dad. Even extended family got in on the act. My aunt sent me a long Facebook message about how I needed to let bygones be bygones because life is too short to hold grudges. What none of them understood, or cared to understand, was that this wasn't about holding a grudge. It was about protecting my peace. My parents had shown me time and again that they valued Amanda's lies over my truth. Why would I give them a front row seat to one of the happiest days of my life? Sophia and I had our wedding exactly the way we wanted. Small, intimate, and free of drama. The people who mattered were there. Friends who had supported me through the worst, family members who had actually listened to my side, and Sophia's parents, who treated me like I'd been part of their family for years. The absence of my parents wasn't just noticeable, it was liberating. For the first time, I didn't feel the weight of their expectation or the sting of their judgment. I was free to enjoy the moment, to celebrate the love Sophia and I had built without the shadow of my past hanging over us. As we exchanged vows, I felt a sense of closure I hadn't realized I needed. Amanda, my parents, the betrayal, they were all part of a chapter I'd finally closed. After the wedding, I heard through a cousin that my mom was devastated about not being invited, and that my dad had called me selfish for excluding them. But their opinions didn't matter anymore. I had built a life I was proud of, surrounded by people who genuinely cared about me. My parents could keep their version of the story, the one where Amanda was the victim and I was the villain. I had no interest in rewriting it for them. Let them stay in their bubble of lies. I was too busy living the truth.